Jeff, Denny Hamlin was won the last two races at Bristol. He's 6 below the cut line. So how do you play it? Do you go for stage points or concentrate on getting the win?
Qualifying, Brett. We're going to keep bringing it back up. Get qualified. If you want to give yourself an opportunity to dig out of that hole, start up front. He realizes that. I'm sure everybody over there at Joe Gibbs Racing, they realize, how did you win these races before at Bristol? Being up front.
Yep. Plus, qualifying at Bristol, pit stall selection is key there.
It's key.
It is a hard pit road for drivers, and so back to qualifying. And
then don't beat yourself. I mean, if you can get that position and then all of a sudden come down pit road, you don't need to be trying to beat somebody around, turns 3 and 4 and get caught speeding and have to go to the back of the pack at Bristol, because that's the kiss of death.
Yeah.
Well, when you're there are varying strategies. I mean, 6 points is not a lot. So do you start thinking about, we got to start accumulating stage points, or do you just say, look, we got a good enough car to win, we're going to go for the win?
Well, again, you went from winning stage points to winning the race. I'm going to go back to the same place I went to a second ago. You got to get qualified first. All your plans do not matter until you get qualified. Even with us in the truck series, we were discussing it today. We've got to get qualified before we can start thinking about a game plan and what you need to do in the race. If you're at the back, you're running for your life when they drop the green flag.
Don't want to get lapped at
That's
a place
right.
like Bristol.
I mean, it's so easy. Guys that are out front, I mean, they're not having to mess with nobody. You're back here in the back getting caught up with everybody else that is fighting to try to stay ahead of the leaders. It's a hornet's nest. So I keep going back to that, because that is the biggest thing that these guys, every one of them that are outside looking in, they got to get qualified before they can put together a strategy to be able to go after and say, let's get the stage points now. And you will get what you can, and then worry about the win in the race as it progresses. You need to stockpile a little insurance, and you got to see what the rest of the field does. I mean, if somebody qualifies outside the top 30, that's your mark. Qualify on a pole, run them down, put them down a lap. You got to get your competition in the hole so they're fighting out of it instead of you.
Kim, what are you thinking?
I agree. Like, everything is dependent on qualifying. It's a big difference having a conversation if you qualified top 5 versus if you qualified 25th, 30th, or worse at Bristol. Your strategy is contingent on where you're starting this race. Now, you can have plans in place, sure, but qualifying well, and depending on where you're qualifying, then staying on the lead lap if you did not qualify well is going to be the first battle. I also don't think we can just say, oh, Denny's minus 6 points. He needs 6 points, because it's going to be a moving target the entire race. There are 15 other drivers, 14 if you're going to throw out Logano, because he can kind of do what he wants, that are also going to be gunning for points, because nobody is safe. Like, nobody is advancing on points until at least after stage 2, after we see where the points shuffle out. And so it's not a matter of, we just need to get 6 points. We got to make sure we're beating everybody.
Was it last year, Jeff, that I think, was it Logano had problems early?
Logano, yeah.
And then Kyle Busch had problems, and it's like Logano actually stayed in the playoff picture for a while because of Kyle Busch's. It was a really bizarre night. Yeah,
you can never. That's the other thing too. You can't ever, unless you are literally on the wrecker and the hauler is packed up back to Charlotte, you're not out of it if you're in something until the very end, because people can have issues and they can be left out. So it's a moving target.
The other thing that we don't need to lose sight of is the guys that are on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
Like Denny Hamlin. We know he's won the last 2 races at Bristol. Congratulations. That's a great feat. But you got Martin Truex Jr., Brad Keselowski. I think he knows something about victory lane at Bristol. Yeah. And then, even though it's not where you would expect him to be good at, but Harrison Burton, the Wood Brothers, they've won at Bristol before.
Yeah.
And they know how to play the game just like anybody else, and run a Penske car up there is not a bad thing. But you got 4 guys that know that the best way they can get locked into the next round is win. So they can throw caution to the wind to a certain degree. So you're getting a lot of different mindsets, and what you see in the first stage will indicate, I think, what kind of game plan we're going to be anticipating as we get that first stage in the books, where did it shake out? But again, I'll go back and say the same thing. When they get done qualifying and they drop the green flag, then we're going through live fire, what is happening, who's going where, and who is basically unhinged their brain when they drop the green flag and done something and knocked themselves out. Because
hot tempers.
Well, I mean, even the situation of, think about it, one of the playoff guys, and a lot of times too, have gotten caught up in early
for sure
race accidents. Who's it going to be this week?
Yeah.
We got the tire situation, Kim. Same tire we had in the spring when it caught everybody by surprise, and it became a huge tire management game. Can we expect more of the same, or I mean, it surprised everybody this spring? So have we got any idea what's going to happen this time?
Not if you talk to a crew chief. Every crew chief I talked to last week said lost sleep heading into Watkins Glen because there were still so many unknowns at Bristol. They were like, we have to have a near perfect race at Watkins Glen going into Bristol because we have so many unanswered questions. You know, you think about the tire and what it did in the spring. Well, that was a day race. This is a night race. I don't know that you can look at the spring race and think you're going to have an identical race.
You won't.
Yeah.
I can promise you that.
Yeah.
Been there too many times. They're two different animals, and you got to race it completely different. But the one variable at least everybody can count on, no PJ1 or rosin being put on the racetrack. So the racetrack is
going to put it on a Friday.
They are going to put it on
Friday.
Well, here's the thing, though. In the spring, there were no tire issues in practice. They only showed up in the race. And so, again, to the point of nobody knows what's going to happen.
You don't.
Yeah.
And the whole thing here, again, with that being said, I don't know who it favors. I'll tell you right now, look at who ran well and dealt with the tires in the spring.
Yeah. The top three guys were Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., and Brad Keselowski. 3 of the 4 that are below the cut line.
Exactly.
Which is
so this
wild.
could wind up saying, a what if.
Yeah.
One of these guys, they got it figured out from last time. If they're able to make hay and get up front by qualifying well, this could wind up being a long night for a lot of the other competitors.
Be wild. That's what we want.
That's what Bristol is. It's a wild race at Bristol.
There you go.